Typically, with most games that you play, each story has a beginning and an end. They pull you into their narratives by using encapsulating dialogue, amazing characters, and of course, an attractive story. I'm sure you're probably thinking of a game that fits at least one of these categories, or maybe all three at once. It's those games that we hold close to our hearts because of their impact to us personally. But what if you play a game where there's a beginning and an end, but the entire way through is ambiguous? One where there isn't a direct right answer. A game like that would leave a hole in the pit of your stomach, leaving you only to feel emptiness. As the credits roll, your mind traces. What was the point of this game? This was the state I was in immediately after finishing Grime. I didn't really get it. Sure, I understood the aspects of the game, but I just didn't understand what I was supposed to take from it. I didn't even know how I was gonna make a video from this game, as I didn't really have anything original to work from. But then, something occurred to me. There was one specific thing that stuck out to me during the game. The fact that there was so much to be assumed, maybe I just missed something. But to my surprise, I looked at the wiki and it wasn't complete. It was at this moment where I realized that my thought was right. I was supposed to create reason within the game's story and events. I was supposed to interpret it myself. And there was one interpretation that stayed with me from the very earlier parts of the game till the very end. Grime is a story about nature versus nurture. This video will cover very important story events in this game, so I highly advise if you're thinking about playing the game for yourself to stop the video and come back to it after you've finished it. And for those who just want to hear what I have to say, keep watching. I originally came across Grime in an indie game showcase talking about the recent DLC Colors of Rot. Seeing that it was an indie and that it just generally looked cool, I thought I would wishlist it and then eventually get it. However, the stars aligned and Epic Games put it out for free, so I instantly grabbed, installed it, and played through it. It's honestly kind of funny. But back to what I was saying. Nature versus nurture is an odd message to take from a game, especially for a game that is a Metroidvania, but allow me to explain myself. When you initially start Grime, there's not much that you know besides a cryptic and sensual cutscene. I'm sorry, what game was I playing again? Grime? Okay. Just making sure. The fact that your main appearance is a bunch of rocks with a black hole on top and that you've just been born. With not much else to do with the information you just learned, which is practically nothing, you are only to proceed forward with the little information had. The game will start teaching you the main ways of traversal, such as being able to jump and dash, and it's here where my interpretation starts. The core feature of the game is your special ability to absorb enemies' attacks, but even more so, you can absorb the enemy wholly. It is here where you learn that absorbing enemies will in turn make you more powerful by enabling special traits from the enemies themselves. After learning this knowledge, you're sure to put it to use to make sure that you not only focus on killing the enemies, but also absorbing as many enemies as possible. This is where the game gets you. During your playthrough, you'll be killing and absorbing them just like it's nothing. You are now going around fighting all these enemies, destroying them, consuming them, almost like a second nature. You start to think about it a little more and start to wonder why you're doing all of this. What's your purpose? But of course, it doesn't matter, because you're still doing what the game requires you to do: consume and destroy. As you go on, you'll eventually learn that your existence was an inevitability. Your entire purpose is because everything was going to head down a devastating end, one that would be consumed by an unstoppable vessel, and surely enough, it would. You would go through several enemies, several bosses, just to eventually build enough power to consume all that existed. This leaves you with quite a moral dilemma. Over time, you get to understand the places that you go to and the civilizations that exist within them. The people who have rocks for heads are unclean and ugly, creating a huge divide between the beautiful Carven like you and the malformed nobodies like them. They're left to rot down there with a corrupted society, and sometimes are left to even meld with the rocks that exist in their landscape. It's really messed up. It feels wrong to just be the gigantic reset button that will put an end to all the problems, but in return destroy everything in the process. It shouldn't be the final solution. There would have to be another way to fix it. Except, there isn't one. You come across an important being named Shidra who knew of your nature and didn't want you to find out, even though you were actively acting on it already. He asks of your help to gather some things in return for information, and as he knows of your nature, he knew that he would receive them pretty soon. Inevitably, when you gathered them all, He informs you that your nature is inevitable, and he wonders that once you had the Cenotaph, an area where you are revered, would you be able to stop your path of destruction and choose to live a different life, one filled without it? And it was here where I thought I would stop my path of destruction for good, one where I can nurture peace and reach a satisfying end, one that doesn't lead me to consume all that exists. Upon your arrival, you were in fact celebrated by everyone. Everyone was proud to see you and were preparing for a final performance, one that you would partake in for everyone to watch. Things felt good. You were surrounded by people who were celebrating your coming. But why were they so happy through your arrival? All you've done was destroy everything that you've came across. Surely you weren't a good person. Not one person could justify anything you did. What once was a smile on my face disappeared after realizing what was coming. The final performance existed just so that it could be a celebration before they inevitably get consumed by you, the end giver. And so, the performance concluded, and what used to be a lively city filled with the people that treated you like an amazing guest of honor disappeared without a trace. Heading back, I knew that there wasn't a choice. Maybe I should have done things differently. Why did things have to turn out this way? Why was I a legitimate force of nature, and why am I forced to consume all just because I was born? It sounds so unfair to the people who exist in this world. I tried to reach some kind of peace, but it wasn't allowed. Maybe I just had to succumb to the force of nature. Stuck asking myself the same questions, I really struggled to make it to the last areas of the game. Shidra was gone, and there was nobody left to communicate with anymore. It was just me. It felt lonely. Eventually, I crossed paths with Shidra again, and it wasn't exactly in the friendliest terms. Shidra is trying to prevent the entire world from being consumed by us. He doesn't want everything to disappear to destruction. With the items we gathered for him, it would be able to put a stop to our destructive nature by draining away the black hole we contain. But would it matter if we really let him drain us? Would it fix the division that exists between the Carven and the boulder-headed people? Would it truly stop everything from being destroyed? Is the only way for peace in this world for me to disappear? Everything I worked up for, everything I did wouldn't be reversed with my demise. Left with no other option in the directions of my nature, I had to fight. I couldn't throw away everything I did just because I was doing things that were within my own nature. I followed through with putting it into Shidra, absorbing him, and eventually the entire world that existed. I became one with the other giant celestials. I did what was within my nature. This was my interpretation that led me to believe that Grime is a story about nurture versus nature. Everything I've explained has been processed through my own thoughts and understanding of the story. I believe that the main story focus in my experience is the harsh reality of something that is of nature and something that is of nurture. We were never nurtured to learn how to stop our destruction. We were only avidly pointed towards it and supported by it to fulfill someone else's wish. One that didn't work because we ultimately became too powerful. The ending isn't what I wanted it to be, but seeing the other side of the spectrum didn't make me feel any more complete than just seeing one. There were many issues that existed inside of their world, and I don't think the destruction of everything was the solution, but neither was the destruction of the end giver, someone who was led by the force of their nature. There's no clear right answer, but I do believe that whether I consumed all or let myself get drained, there would surely be another leading to the same exact fate that was destined for that world. It would only delay the inevitable. I really enjoyed my time with Grime despite all the rage moments I had during my playthrough. Grime is a game filled with a whole lot of ambiguity and is something that doesn't have, as far as I know, a clear truth behind a lot of the questions. I can't even guarantee everything I said here was even correct or part of the story at all. But their community on Discord are actively going through the game and posting in theories alongside discussing other lore to hopefully piece together something sensible. All of this was my interpretation of the story's events, and I have to say, if you're willing to play through the game yourself and form your own interpretation, I would be extremely ecstatic to see it. If you also grabbed it when it was free on the Epic Games Store, or if you're on the fence of buying it, I would highly recommend seeing what this game could have in store for you. I also wanted to add in a segment for those who watched my Omega Strikers video and say thank you because I am really surprised by all the positive and immense amount of support on it. I've gained a lot of attention from you guys directly, and if you're watching this, then I'm all the more happier. The Omega Strikers community has been very entertaining, and I'm extremely thankful for your guys' support. I hope that this video was enjoyable, and hopefully I can aim for a game a little more lighthearted than a more serious tone game like Grime. Anyways, that's gonna be all from me. I know I haven't said this in a while, but you are now leaving CyKer's world. See you on your next visit. But to keep things lighthearted, here's a clip that I thought was pretty funny.
There's a big guy right there. Harmless rock giant. Oh, really now? Harmless. Harmless.